Same thing, which I'll go into the Bonanno crime family now, which they originated mostly from Brooklyn, Queens. Of course, they were in the Bronx because that's I was around Vinny Gorgeous. Of course, everybody knows Dominick Cicale was my captain, and he was with the Bonannos. And so but that would so he was kind of like based there too. But I mean, Vinny used to hang out, I guess, in Brooklyn for a long time. I guess he was around a lot of those guys back in those days, Big Trini, of course, Joe Messino and all of those guys and stuff like that. But there was Carmine Galante, that was a big drug bust there, and I'm not sure, but I think that guy Bruno, who was actually really good friends with Dominic, I think he was in on that hit too. They killed Carmine Galante back in those days. Then there was the Pizza Connection too. They were very well involved with. Matter of fact, I think Anthony Aiello, who I knew his name because I hung around with them more, Ace they called him, and he was very close with Dominic. I think his father was in the Pizza Connection too.
Explain the Pizza Connection for those who don't know.
That was a joint thing between Italy and of course America, and that was a heroin thing where they were shipping the heroin in, and I got it right now at the time, in the big sauce cans, those big cans that the sauce comes in.
The pizza sauce?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
And so they were shipping it around like that. So that was a big, and they called it the Pizza Connection because all the pizza places, that's how they did it. That's how they spread it around. That was a big thing, just like the Windows case. And I think there was a couple of guys in there, the Colombo family, maybe the Gambino family and Genovese family. I think those guys were involved in the big window case, which is they had a contract to do all the windows, replace all the windows in New York City, all the buildings and everything like that. So
wow.
You're talking millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Probably billions. Think about how many windows are in New York City. That's a lot of money.
I mean,
just to redo your windows on your house. Just one house is like $30,000.
Especially if we get the Anderson windows, right?
Yeah, depending on what kind of house you have.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a big thing too. I knew my friends. I used to know a friend of mine whose sister's husband was killed right in front of the house because he was involved in that house for whatever reason. I forget what it was. I never found out what it was, and it wasn't my place to find out. But you're talking. This is how they generate money, millions and millions of dollars. Just like in the construction, you can get the concrete from these guys. They have a way they can get the concrete to you, or they give you extra jobs. So this way, the concrete company will make money. So in other words, if the concrete company's making $1 million a year, well, you get hooked up with the wise guys. You might start making $3 million a year. Now, you'll see a profit, and they'll get a profit. They don't shake you down like years ago. Like say, hey, you're gonna work for us, or you're gonna do this for us. It's more of a mutual thing because listen, everybody wants to make money. Now, if you get resistance from a guy that's in a legitimate business and says, "I don't want to be involved, I don't care," this and this and that, well, then you might have a problem then, and then that can stem from, you can't go to a job, the truck never makes it. You can't pour the concrete. Somebody gets there before you. All different kind of little things, to stop that. But with the Bonanno family, at one time, it was pretty low on the totem pole, but they built themselves up at one time pretty quick, pretty powerful. They started becoming again, believe it or not. And they were, listen, like I said, anything that can generate money, lucrative, they're going to get involved, and we're going to do it. As a matter of fact, when I was hanging out in Brooklyn, I was on 85th and Bath Avenue. I used to hang out with at Anthony Spiro's place, which was the Big Apple car company. And, I tell you the truth, I loved hanging out in Brooklyn. It was like you had a license to do anything you wanted to do. These people didn't hide nothing. And I just had the drive from where I was living in Yonkers at that time, going back and forth, fighting the traffic and everything. If it wasn't for the, my superior driving capabilities, forget about it. Yeah, I mean, I had Bobby DeFeo. He was living in Yonkers at that time. He's the one who introduced me to everybody down there. Then they chased him, but they kept me because they liked me better. And Bobby was doing a lot of coke that I didn't know about. He actually owes me still about $6,000, $6,500. I never seen him in the street, but even now, even though that it's known that I'm cooperating, if I ever seen him in the street, I'm gonna let's put it this way, I'm gonna ask him for it. I'll leave it at that. Anyway, so but the Bonanno family, like I said, there was some tough guys there. There was Ace, he was tough. There was Dominick, fearless, the tough. And a really
Mikey knows Mancuso.
Mikey knows Mancuso. Yeah, another guy that Dominick, yeah, he didn't know. Mikey probably knows now, but he didn't know how close he was coming. Because you talk about there was no love between him and Dominick, and Mike was a, listen, in this life, you're gonna meet some guys that are, even if you don't like them, you can have respect for them because they, you can tell the way they carried themselves and the way they conducted themselves, and even if you didn't like them. But he was just an all around. I mean, just I don't know what his crew's doing, and I don't even know why he's still running that show over there. There could be so many other guys that were to run that show. Would do 1,000 times better, but you know,
Would you say that the Bonannos were more involved in drugs than the other families?
it's at one time maybe. At one time, I think maybe when Carmine was there, and of course the Pizza Connection. So yeah, at one time probably.
And were they looked down upon by the other families for that, or kind of like, let's stay away from these guys? They're kind of
They'll say we don't do that over here, like I said, but they turn a blind eye. And believe me, most people are going to be saying, "Geez, I wish we would have got involved with that," because there's a lot of wise guys out there that are broke.
the money is undeniable. I mean, it's a bad business, but
Yep, and there's a lot of gangsters that are broke. When I was working at the Jacob Javits Center, I was around a lot of wise guys. This guy Beansy from one of them, and this guy Beansy was a great guy. Everybody loved him and respected him, but we had to earn money. At that time, it was like $25 an hour back in the 80s. We were making $47 an hour, though overtime, okay? $47, $48 overtime. I mean, so when we got a call to go in at midnight, we'd go because we were broke. We needed the money. And we'd all get together, and it'd be just like hanging out on the street some days, just putting up what we had to do. So, yeah, I mean, money is just, when it comes to certain numbers with the money, you're going to do anything, do it big. Okay, go big or go away. You know what I mean? And so these guys were willing to take a chance, and I don't blame them. Money's money.